Our families were well matched and we were of suitable age, so Ming Chen and I entered into a marriage alliance. But he had his cinnabar mole, and I had my white moonlight. His cinnabar mole betrayed him, and my white moonlight abandoned me. After marriage, we cooperated tacitly and became the model couple in our circle. However, both the cinnabar mole and the white moonlight suddenly had a change of heart, and now they both want to win us back. But there is a saying that goes, love is hard to control, and a staged act can also become reality. 1 month before my engagement to Ming Chen, we finally met in person for the first time. The restaurant Ming Chen had chosen was on the top floor terrace by the river in Jincheng, offering a panoramic view of the Bun's night scenery. On my way there after work, my best friend Jiang Jia sent me a message. I asked around, and Ming Chen seems like a good guy to be with. When I arrived, Ming Chen was on a work call. He had his black shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows and was speaking in German. Seeing me, he gave an apologetic look. I shook my head, signaling that it was fine. His call lasted for 10 minutes. In those 10 minutes, my thoughts wandered wildly. One thought was that Ming Chen seemed to have studied his undergraduate degree in Germany, supposedly because of his white moonlight. Another was that he wasn't wearing his armband today, and although his shirt wasn't as prim and proper as before, it exuded a casual and relaxed vibe. Speaking of the armband, I recalled the first time I met him after returning to the country, which was at his countryside ranch. He was wearing an armband and a harness, with his biceps and chest muscles tightly wrapped and bulging. My first thought at the time was, this was the man who wore an armband and harness the best I'd ever seen. The man dismounted, saw me approaching, and the first thing he said was, "Hello, Miss Wen." Ming Chen hung up the phone and smiled. "I am Ming Chen." Surprisingly, Ming Chen and I hit it off quite well. He was mature and graceful in every aspect. From the dishes he ordered, the topics we discussed, to the flowers he gave me after the meal, everything was comfortable and thoughtful. While maintaining a respectful distance, there was also a subtle intimacy that only the two of us could sense. Well, if we don't get a bit more intimate soon, it might be too late. After all, we're about to get engaged. After dinner, Ming Chen drove me home. The car he drove was an off-road vehicle with an unusually high chassis, making it a bit difficult for me to get in. As he helped me into the car, he spoke somewhat apologetically. "I went to inspect the base today, so this car was more convenient." After graduation, he had left the G family's traditional fast-moving consumer goods industry and started his own biotech business from scratch. I joked, "It must be hard for President G, being so busy and still making time to have dinner with me." "Don't say that." Ming Chen looked at me seriously. "You're busy with work too, and this is what I should be doing." Oh my, I stared into Ming Chen's deep eyes for a few seconds, then messaged Jiang Jia. Mature men are terrifying. Now you see the charm of mature men? You realize that those you liked before weren't that great after all, right? I couldn't argue with that. After all, I used to go for younger guys. Young, hot-blooded little wolf dog were great, but when they were too hot-blooded, they could be quite infuriating. When the car arrived at the apartment building, I was blocked by an infuriating little wolf dog. That little wolf dog was named Bai Zhe. My friends liked to jokingly call him my white moonlight. It wasn't entirely inaccurate. He and I had been tangled together since our time studying abroad in North America, and we even reconciled once after I returned to the country. Given my personality, being able to reconcile and go back to someone I've already been with, calling him my white moonlight wasn't too far off. He was also, in fact, the person I had dated the longest. Before I even got out of the car, Ming Chen had already noticed Bai Zhe leaning against his motorcycle downstairs by the apartment. But his reaction was different. Ming Chen's first thought was, "That guy looks really suspicious. Is the security around here that bad?" I stayed silent for a few seconds before deciding to be honest. "He's my ex-boyfriend." Ming Chen was momentarily taken aback. "Sorry, do you need me to leave?" Damn, Ming Chen really knew how to handle situations with grace. "No need. I can settle this in a few minutes," I said. "I was actually thinking of inviting you up. If it doesn't bother you, we can always plan for another time." Ming Chen frowned. "He saw you." Baizé did indeed see me. His originally aggrieved expression changed as soon as he saw the car and noticed Jiming Chen. His tone was anything but friendly as he asked, "Sister, who's that?" Jiming Chen raised an eyebrow at this. I immediately felt a headache coming on. Baizé was 5 years younger than me, and in most situations, I was overly tolerant and doting toward him because I was older. My friends used to complain that Baizé had turned out this way entirely because I had spoiled him too much. Hot-headed, impulsive, and extreme in both good and bad. I remember we broke up 2 months ago. I was preparing for the F1 race back then, training at the base, Baizé said, clearly dissatisfied. "Who is he?" "My fiancé," I replied coldly. This was typical Baizé, completely spoiled by me. He probably hadn't taken the breakup I initiated 2 months ago seriously. After all, we had reconciled once before, and he was absolutely confident in winning my favor. "Did you cheat?" Baizé asked incredulously. "Are you seriously using that as an excuse just to piss me off?" A surge of anger rose within me, and I was about to cut things off cleanly when Jiming Chen, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "Excuse me, sir. You should have received at least 9 years of compulsory education, so you should have a basic level of comprehension," Jiming Chen said as he stepped out of the car and positioned himself in front of me. Wendong clearly said in the first sentence that she broke up with you 2 months ago. Jiming Chen, standing at 187 centimeters with years of fitness training behind him, made Baizé's presence seem too weak in comparison. He stepped slightly in front of me and said, "Is accusing her of cheating how you show your upbringing?" Baizé took a step back and didn't choose to confront Jiming Chen head-on. This was his usual display of cleverness. He simply looked at me with red-rimmed eyes, bit his lip, and softened his tone, asking, "Sister?" I said, "He is my fiancé. We're getting engaged next month." The main reason Baizé and I could be in a relationship for so long was because he knew exactly how to make me happy. In the past 2 years, we had never had an argument. The reason was that no matter how angry I got, Baizé would always smile and coax me. This had also caused the issues between us to never be addressed, let alone resolved. I initiated the breakup, and we both agreed, I said. "If you don't believe me, you can check the chat history." Baizé's eyes showed hurt. This was the first time I had been so heartless to him. I sighed, having to admit that I still softened at the sight of him like this. Baizé gave me a deep look, choking as he tried to sound tough. "You better not regret it." His innate pride wouldn't allow him to cling on, so Baizé turned and got on his motorcycle. The roar of the engine faded into the distance. Feeling a little embarrassed, I said to Jiming Chen, "Sorry you had to see that." Jiming Chen shook his head, hesitated for a moment, and then said, "About relationships, maybe you've heard some things about me too." I nodded. Compared to me, who was constantly surrounded by rumors and changed boyfriends yearly since coming of age, Jiming Chen had only ever been involved in one romantic scandal, about his cinnabar mole, Lin Yao. "Do you still have any contact with her now?" Jiming Chen gave a bitter smile and shook his head. "After that incident 4 years ago, we haven't been in touch since." "Isn't that fine then? Every adult has at least 1 or 2 past relationships. It's not like you were promiscuous." I thought for a moment and then smiled. "But you've probably heard about my reputation. My relationship history is more than just 1 or 2. Does that bother you?" "Don't say it like that. There's no such thing as whether it bothers me or not." Jiming Chen looked at me seriously. "You've been sincere in every relationship. In fact, through work, I've had contact with some of your ex-boyfriends." Jiming Chen's words were genuine. When your name came up during casual conversations, they all spoke very highly of you. You're an interesting person. If anything, I'm worried that my being too dull might annoy you. God, mature men are truly terrifying. If I'd known dating older guys was so great, why did I ever bother with my nickname as the younger guy collection guide? That night, Jiming Chen did not come upstairs. Before leaving, he draped his suit jacket over my shoulders, which were bare from wearing a slip dress. The jacket carried a faint, cool fragrance, subtle, not overpowering. It was just like Jiming Chen himself, calm, composed, and in control. Zhengjia marveled at this move, clicking her tongue in admiration. A real expert. I asked her what she meant by that. He's quietly setting up the next meeting. If you have no interest in him, you'll forget about the jacket. Then, based on your reaction, he'll figure out how to interact with you. But if you do want to see him again, you'll definitely return the jacket. As I held the freshly cleaned jacket while on my way to Jiming Chen's company, Jiang Jia added, "Your little tricks might work well on younger guys, but for someone like Jiming Chen, you'd better be extra careful." I arrived at Jiming Chen's office building just as the workday was ending. Jiming Chen sent me a message, and I took his private elevator up to his office floor. The receptionist greeted me warmly. "President Ji's meeting will end in about 10 minutes. Miss Wen, please wait for a moment." I looked around Jiming Chen's office. The decor was simple yet elegant, but certain objects on his desk and bookshelf hinted at his personal hobbies. For example, there was a Switch gaming console, a pool cue mounted on the wall, and even a DSLR camera on the bookshelf. After waiting for 10 minutes, Jiming Chen emerged from his meeting, carrying an elegantly wrapped bouquet of Earl Red tea roses. The flowers bloomed vibrantly. Bending down, Jiming Chen handed the flowers to me as I sat on the sofa. "Sorry to keep you waiting. These are apology flowers. I hope you like them." Does Lin Yao have such high standards that she doesn't even fancy Jiming Chen? What got into you? Lin Yao is too conflicted, both insecure and arrogant. If she could just be a little more open-minded, there wouldn't have been an engagement between you two. I'll give you a task. Go find out what's really going on between Jiming Chen and Lin Yao. On my way to the restaurant, I tapped my phone case, looking at the chat history with Jiang Jia, lost in thought. The relationship between Lin Yao and Jiming Chen was quite famous in our circle a few years ago. Lin Yao, with outstanding grades, was admitted as an elite student to Jiming Chen's international high school. The two fell in love, but due to the vast differences in family backgrounds, both sets of parents strongly opposed the relationship. I even heard a bit about it when I was preparing to go abroad in high school. The reason Jiming Chen went to Germany for his undergraduate studies was that Lin Yao applied there because the tuition was more affordable. Later, Jiming Chen fought with his family for Lin Yao, broke away from the Ji family, and started his own business. His early entrepreneurial days were quite rough. One of my ex-boyfriends who had worked with Jiming Chen once said that young Master Ji foolishly chose not to follow the easy path laid out for him and insisted on taking the hard way instead. Later, when Jiming Chen had grown more independent and the Ji family finally agreed, Lin Yao brought up the breakup instead. It was said that the breakup was messy, far from amicable. This was something another one of my ex-boyfriends had told me. As I watched Jiming Chen reverse his car, I found it hard to imagine the once reckless and passionate version of him. He was now always mature, calm, and exceptionally poised. My phone buzzed. Jiang Jia sent a message. I found out that back then, Lin Yao didn't just break up with Jiming Chen. She took the core members of his company's project team and jumped ship to a rival company. Then she got together with the rival company's operations director, Chen K. Me. Wow. She was even more ruthless than me. Jiming Chen chose local cuisine, and he was the one who ordered the dishes. After hearing his selections, I was surprised to realize that, since our last meal, Jiming Chen had already figured out my taste preferences. Jiming Chen, however, remained quite calm about it. It's nothing, really. If you pay attention, you can remember it all. I took a sip of wine to conceal my emotions. I had never received such thoughtful care from Baizé. Since I was older, I was used to making the decisions when it came to ordering food. Our conversation during the meal was just as engaging, which reassured me that neither of us was deliberately accommodating the other. Whether it was our outlook on life or our interests, Jiming Chen and I were very much in sync. We talked about everything from Nintendo to work, and once again, Jiming Chen surprised me with how well he knew my current work situation. I thought you weren't interested in fashion design. I felt a bit guilty, as I hadn't really paid much attention to Jiming Chen's work. Not to brag, Jiming Chen clinked his glass with mine and smiled, but I have pretty good taste. That was true. Judging by his style in clothing, his choice of flowers, and the restaurants he picked, Jiming Chen's aesthetic sense could definitely be considered refined. The meal was thoroughly enjoyable, and after dinner, Jiming Chen handed me a small blue brocade box. I bought this during a business trip. I thought it would suit you. I hope you like it. When I opened it, there was a sapphire bracelet, gleaming brilliantly under the light. I put it on in front of Jiming Chen, but the clasp was intricately designed, so Jiming Chen leaned in to help me fasten it. I smiled and looped my arm through his. Thank you. I absolutely love it. Jiming Chen chuckled softly, revealing a dimple on his right cheek. Even after we got off the elevator, I was still raising my hand, admiring the bracelet. Jiming Chen, somewhat regretfully, said, "If I had known you'd like it this much, I should have bought a matching necklace too." Before I could respond, a woman's surprised voice suddenly came from ahead. Ming Chen? Next to me, Jiming Chen froze for a moment, then quickly composed himself, his smile fading. Miss Lin. Lin Yao had a petite figure, delicate features, and wore a gray suit, exuding a sharp and professional aura. She was someone who appeared quite charming. However, the smile on her face quickly vanished when she saw me holding Jiming Chen's arm, but she soon raised a polite smile again. She looked at me and asked, "And who might this be?" I raised my eyebrow. Interesting. Instead of exchanging pleasantries, she directly asked who I was. Lin Yao's behavior didn't quite match the rumors of her being cold and distant during their breakup. It seemed she still had feelings for Jiming Chen. My wrist, which was holding onto Jiming Chen's arm, relaxed slightly, causing the sapphire bracelet to slip down. I smiled and said, "Hello, I'm Wendong, Brother Chen's fiancé." Lin Yao's smile completely vanished. She stared at Jiming Chen in disbelief, her voice rising in both volume and sharpness. "You're engaged?" Jiming Chen responded with a simple yes and added, "The engagement is next month. We'll need more time to prepare for the wedding since it's a big event." I tugged on Jiming Chen's sleeve. He was playing along well. Lin Yao lowered her head, brushing her hair back. When she looked up again, her expression was somewhat unnatural, but still managed to remain composed. "Is that so?" she asked softly. "Are you here for a meal?" I still remember how we used to love the food here. It's been a long time since I've been, so I'm not sure if the taste has changed. I couldn't help but chuckle. Jiming Chen glanced at me and, as if to comfort me, gently squeezed my wrist that rested on his arm. "I come here often with friends. I'm so used to the food here that I haven't noticed if the taste has changed," Jiming Chen replied warmly. "But the local dishes here are quite good. My fiancée is a local and she prefers spicy food. She just returned to the country not long ago, so I thought I'd bring her here to make her happy." As soon as he finished speaking, I looked at Lin Yao and finally understood that a person's face could indeed lose all color. "Then we won't disturb you any further." Jiming Chen nodded politely. "We'll be leaving now." On the way back, we remained silent. It wasn't until the car stopped under my apartment building that Jiming Chen placed his hand on the steering wheel, exhaling, "I'm sorry for making you upset." I looked up in surprise. "I'm not upset." I hesitated for a moment, but decided to be honest. "Well, maybe a little, but it wasn't because of Lin Yao. It was because you've seemed down the entire time." My mood had nothing to do with Lin Yao either. Jiming Chen rubbed his face. "If I still had feelings for her, I wouldn't have gotten engaged to you. It's just..." His voice lowered. Seeing her brings back bad memories. I tentatively reached out to hold Jiming Chen's hand, gently stroking it. "Let me apologize first. I did some digging into why you and Lin Yao broke up. There's no need to apologize. It's something everyone knows." Jiming Chen squeezed my hand, intertwining our fingers. "Even if you hadn't looked into it, I would have been honest with you eventually." I couldn't help but smile. "So, why was it?" I asked. Her behavior is really hard for me to figure out. "I don't know either." Jiming Chen gave a bitter smile. "Maybe she hates me. We were in a relationship for 2 years, and afterward it was a constant cycle of breaking up and getting back together. My family and her mother were always interfering, making the relationship more painful than joyful. Looking back now, most of the time we were just yelling at each other. Towards the end, she felt bad for me because I left the G family and was struggling, but after she cried, she'd scold me again, and then after scolding, she'd come back to hug me." Jiming Chen seemed lost in his memories. We studied the same major, and it was only natural for us to start a business together. She's incredibly capable, and everyone could see that. But she always said she couldn't demonstrate her value at my company, claiming that everyone believed her success was solely due to me. When I gave her gifts, if they were too expensive, she'd make sarcastic remarks. If they were too cheap, or if I didn't get her anything, she'd say I didn't care about her. Jiming Chen turned to look at me, smiling faintly. I guess I just didn't do enough. I didn't give her enough of a sense of security. I gently shook our clasped hands. Are you seriously telling your fiancé that you didn't give your ex enough sense of security? For the first time, Jiming Chen's expression was so complex, both regretful and panicked. That's not what I meant, I laughed. I know, I was just teasing you. Did she really switch jobs to your competitor? Yes. Jiming Chen paused for a moment. Actually, my family had already agreed at that time, but I hesitated. Our relationship wasn't very healthy then, and on a major project, we had a serious disagreement. She was too fixated on that disagreement, insisting I acknowledge her perspective. In the end, it wasn't about the issue anymore. She was just venting her emotions. I listened quietly. We lost the bid on that project to the competitor, so I decided to reshuffle the company's upper management and have given them a half-month break. And what happened after that? Jiming Chen looked at our joined hands. You already know. I asked softly, why did she act that way? She said she was jealous of me. Jiming Chen was silent for a moment before speaking again. Jealous of how everything went smoothly for me, she questioned why I was born into the Ji family and said that I trampled on her dignity. Don't think about it like that. I let go of his hand, unbuckled my seatbelt, leaned over, and hugged him. Now that it's all out in the open, let's not bring this up again in the future. There was a cool, soothing scent in Jiming Chen's embrace, and with the difference in our body sizes, I was completely nestled in his arms. I leaned in and kissed the tip of his nose. A kiss makes all the bad feelings disappear. Jiming Chen's ears slowly turned red. He lowered his eyes, his thick lashes trembling slightly as he softly asked, "Are you only going to kiss here?" Damn it, for the countless time I thought to myself, Jiming Chen is such a terrifying man. I was lying on the sofa, chatting with Zhang Jia. Kissing a mature man is just different, gentle and gradual. It feels like being slowly devoured. Zhang Jia responded coldly, "Innocent me doesn't want to hear about this." Liar, wasn't it you who told me last time that your ex was too fast? We were in the middle of a fun argument when Jiming Chen sent me a message saying he was home, then asked if I had time next week. He wanted to discuss engagement venues, outfits, and other related matters. I immediately checked my schedule. I had a boxing session planned for next weekend, so I told my secretary to reschedule it and replied that I was available. Jiming Chen sent a soft, cartoonish cat emoji with the word "okay" bouncing above its head. I paused for a second, then silently covered my face and collapsed back onto the sofa. My phone kept buzzing. Jiming Chen sent another message. Last time, when we met Lin Yao, I said I'd take you to that restaurant to make you happy, and I meant it. It wasn't because of Lin Yao. I couldn't help but laugh, lying back on the sofa. For me, this kind of feeling was rare, but what did it matter? After all, Jiming Chen cared deeply too. How lovely it is to have such genuine, mutual affection. I had imagined picking out a wedding dress with Jiming Chen, selecting a honeymoon destination, and designing wedding rings together. But I never expected Jiming Chen to even have an opinion or two about manicures. I was utterly shocked. Isn't there supposed to be a wall between men and women? Beautiful things are universal, aren't they? Jiming Chen gently held my hand. His hand was a whole size bigger than mine, and he could easily grasp my hand completely. Besides, I want to learn more about the things you like. I covered my face with my other hand and mumbled, "You're too terrifying, Jiming Chen." Jiming Chen tilted his head, a little puzzled, but still smiled at me. But I don't do manicures that often. I shook our linked hands. I practice boxing, and long nails are really inconvenient. It wasn't an exaggeration. At that moment, I saw obvious joy and surprise in Jiming Chen's deep eyes. I actually suspected that you had a fitness routine. Your figure is healthy and beautiful. Jiming Chen lowered his head and kissed the back of my hand, then looked up at me. How about adding some boxing to our future dates? I've been practicing boxing for many years. We didn't wait for the future. Right after we finalized the wedding attire that day, we went straight to a boxing gym. Calling it a boxing gym isn't quite accurate. It was more like a large fitness club. The membership requirements were strict, and I had applied when I first returned to the country, but unfortunately, I got rejected. Ming Chen helped me wrap my hands, and when he heard my complaint, he seemed a bit embarrassed for some reason. He whispered, "Sorry, I'll pull some strings for you." I was a bit confused. Ming Chen scratched his nose. I co-founded this place with a friend from graduate school, and I have shares in it. I was completely charmed by his look. I reached out with my bandaged hand to scratch his chin. "Well then, thank you, President Ji." Sparring with Ming Chen was very enjoyable. He was an excellent training partner. Though I was nowhere near his level in terms of stamina and strength, Ming Chen kept praising my punches. While I was confident in my technique, even I couldn't handle the excessive amount of praise he was giving me. During our break, Ming Chen introduced me to another co-owner of the club, his longtime friend, John Fei. Ming Chen's friends all had a strong sense of boundaries, which made them easy to get along with. After we exchanged greetings, John Fei said, "I've heard about you for years. Now that we've finally met, it turns out the rumors were true." Me? How is it possible to be so sincere without being the least bit glib? At some point, John Fei and Ming Chen started talking about the club's operations, and I took the opportunity to go shower, leaving them some space. After coming out of the shower, I unexpectedly discovered someone I hadn't anticipated. Lin Yao was dressed in workout clothes, handing a bottle of water to Ming Chen. I hesitated for a moment, holding the water I had brought for Ming Chen, but still quietly took a few steps forward. "Did you come here alone?" Lin Yao lowered her hand, holding the water, a bit of self-deprecation in her tone. "You won't even accept a bottle of water from me now?" "I came with Wendong," Ming Chen said, lowering his eyes as he untied his bandages, his attitude clearly indifferent. "Really? Are you teaching her how to box too?" "There's no need for me to teach her. Wendong has been training for many years. She's very skilled." I couldn't help but smile a little. "I still remember when we used to come here on weekends, and you would teach me how to box," Lin Yao said with a hint of nostalgia in her voice. "I was so clumsy. No matter how long I tried, I just couldn't get the hang of it. That's because you didn't have a habit of working out, so naturally you couldn't improve at boxing," Ming Chen replied gently. "You can ask Chen Ke to teach you too. He's quite good at boxing." Lin Yao's face instantly turned pale. "Ming Chen, do you hate me?" "Not really." Ming Chen turned his head and saw me, suddenly smiling. He then turned to Lin Yao and said, "Miss Lin, my fiancé is here. We'll be going now." Ming Chen grabbed his boxing gloves and walked toward me. Lin Yao looked at me over Ming Chen's shoulder and suddenly asked loudly, "Ming Chen, after all these years we've been together, what does it even count for?" Ming Chen took the water I handed him and replied, "It counts as time." I couldn't help but laugh out loud and stuck out my tongue. Ming Chen put his arm around my shoulders, and we turned to leave together. John Fei said he'd treat us to dinner later. "Do you like Cantonese food?" "Sure," I said. "Sorry for eavesdropping on your conversation." "What do you mean by eavesdropping? You were clearly listening to our conversation openly." Ming Chen smiled at me, his dimples faintly visible. "John Fei was worried you'd misunderstand when you saw Lin Yao, but now that's all cleared up. For some reason, in that moment, he reminded me of a big cat with its tail up." Dinner was pleasant for everyone, and as John Fei left, he added me on WeChat and pulled me into their little group chat. I looked at the people in the group, a bit surprised. "Luo Binghe is also your childhood friend?" Luo Binghe's younger brother was my first love. Back then, we were young and reckless, and the breakup was a huge dramatic mess. I felt a little guilty. Ming Chen responded with a hum, then quickly realized and added, "His younger brother attended high school abroad. I don't really have much contact with him." I glanced at his expression. "Are you feeling uncomfortable?" "To be honest, just a little." Ming Chen held my hand. "But they're the past, and I'm your future. I'll do my best to make sure you'll never regret it." The engagement party was held at a seaside hotel, and the day before the engagement, both families had dinner together. Our two families had always maintained a cooperative relationship, and the connection between us had been consistently good. After the meal, Jiming Chen's mother placed the jade bracelet, which she had worn for many years, on my wrist. It was truly too valuable, both in terms of its worth and the sentiment behind it. She simply touched my face gently and smiled, saying, "You two take good care of each other." After seeing off both families, we stayed at the seaside hotel. After taking a shower, we played Super Mario in our pajamas. Halfway through the game, I rested my head on Jiming Chen's lap. His leg muscles tensed for a moment before relaxing. I turned my head toward his stomach and laughed. Jiming Chen sighed helplessly. "Tuan Tuan, you're getting more and more outrageous." Tuan Tuan was my childhood nickname, given because I was chubby like a Tuanzi when I was little. My family had called me that during dinner earlier. Feeling a bit embarrassed and annoyed, I pinched his abs. Jiming Chen leaned back and fell directly onto the carpet. I laid on top of him, asking, "You don't like it?" To say I don't like it would be too hypocritical. Jiming Chen wrapped his arms around me. "I just feel like we're moving too fast." I poked his chest. "Why did you agree to the arranged marriage in the first place?" Jiming Chen held my hand and looked into my eyes. "I know it might make you uncomfortable, but I still want to be honest with you. In the beginning, it really was just because it seemed suitable. My last relationship was too exhausting. It felt like the whole world was against it, and my immaturity made my parents sad." Jiming Chen gently squeezed my fingertips. "I just wanted a relationship that both of our families could approve of, something smooth and easy. When our parents first suggested the arranged marriage, I had actually met you once at my ranch." Jiming Chen continued. "At that time, you had just returned to the country and immediately picked the wildest horse in the ranch. I watched the whole process from the second-floor terrace as you tamed that horse. Wendong, you're incredibly captivating." Jiming Chen lowered his gaze and gently kissed my fingertips. "You're strong and full of vitality. Every day spent with you feels worth living seriously." My face began to turn red little by little. Jiming Chen kissed my forehead. "Tuan Tuan, this is the best decision I've ever made in my life." The engagement banquet was a great success. Jiming Chen's company released a congratulatory announcement, and because of this, our circle of friends intersected. The only surprise was Baize showing up at the banquet. This young man really had some odd ideas. He barged straight into the dressing room and asked me if I was willing to elope with him. "Everyone in the room?" "I know you're being forced into this marriage by your family," Baize said, filled with pain. "I'm sorry, I was too reckless before and didn't understand your difficulties. Sister, let's run away together." Baize grabbed my hand. "Let's leave everything behind and we can build a small, simple, and happy life together." Me. Zhang Jia crossed her arms and laughed, saying, "Little brother, your current task is to graduate from college, and your second task is to secure a spot for postgraduate studies." The people in the dressing room couldn't hold back their laughter. I sighed helplessly and said, "Baize, these past 2 years have made me truly happy, but we are over now. Yes, part of this is an arranged marriage, but another part is that I like Jiming Chen. Do you understand?" My gaze softened, but my words were cruel. "You should learn to be a bit more mature." After Baize left, Zhang Jia was laughing so hard she could hardly breathe. "Serves him right. Now he's behaving himself. I told you back then not to date someone who had just come of age." I covered my face. "Don't say that. I must have been out of my mind back then." Jiming Chen most likely knew about this whole thing, but the great thing about a mature man is that he always knows what to ask and what not to ask. Or maybe Jiming Chen simply didn't see Baize as worth his attention. After slipping the engagement ring onto my finger, he took my hand, brought it to his lips, and planted a gentle kiss. Jiming Chen looked at me and smiled. "I will make you happy forever." After we got engaged, I moved into Jiming Chen's apartment in the city center. The first impression conveyed by Jiming Chen's 50th floor apartment decor was that he was someone who valued the quality of life while also maintaining a strong sense of boundaries. The second impression was that Jiming Chen was undoubtedly used to living alone. But now, that was being disrupted by me. Jiming Chen pulled my luggage into the walk-in closet. The cleaning staff comes 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, during our work hours, so we won't be disturbed. I've already asked them to clear out half the closet space. Take a look and see how you'd like to organize your clothes. Jiming Chen sat on the armrest of the sofa and held my hand. After breaking up with Lin Yao, I've lived here alone for 4 years. Other than the cleaning staff, no one has been here except for me. He looked into my eyes gently, so don't feel uncomfortable. I stepped forward, wrapped my arms around his neck, cupped his face, and kissed him. The transition to living together was much smoother than I had anticipated. Jiming Chen thoughtfully prepared a set of all the cosmetics and daily necessities I usually used. We also didn't have any bad habits. We both liked to make plans and keep things organized. The only issue was our sleeping postures. My sleeping posture was particularly wild. On the first morning, I woke up with my leg draped over Jiming Chen's waist. He had dark circles under his eyes, clearly from not getting a good night's sleep due to me. But the solution was simple. Jiming Chen just held my waist, and my wild sleeping posture became much more restrained. Through this, I discovered an adorable habit of his. He was a bit of a late riser, especially after working late the night before. He found it hard to get out of bed the next morning. When I pinched his nose to wake him up, he would frown and burrow under the blanket, sleepily mumbling, "Just 2 more minutes." I was so charmed by how cute he was that I couldn't help but tease him. "Baby, you're such a little lazy pig." As soon as the words left my mouth, I realized something was wrong. Jiming Chen, standing tall at 187 centimeters, was a mature and steady man, not like the puppy-like boyfriends I dated before. This way of coaxing him didn't seem quite right. But in the next second, I noticed his ears turning red, gradually becoming completely flushed. In a muffled voice, he asked, "Is this how you used to coax your ex-boyfriends?" I quickly responded, "From now on, I'll only coax you." It was only afterward that I realized he actually liked it. 2 months after our engagement, Baize, who had remained quiet since causing a huge scene at the engagement banquet, suddenly started stirring up trouble again. This included, but was not limited to, tearfully reflecting on his past immaturity in front of our mutual friends, sending me flowers daily, and even making bold statements about wanting to pursue me again. I was speechless, regretting for the first time that after wandering through so many flowers in the past, I had allowed myself to get entangled with one. Jiang Jia mocked me. "I told you when you two started dating, you'd have to deal with this clingy boy eventually." I had a headache, and Baize's pursuit was like a fire that kept burning stronger. Just as I was about to take more drastic measures to quickly sever ties, Baize suddenly quieted down. Thinking it over, I decided to ask Jiming Chen about it. "Not much," Jiming Chen said after sipping his coffee. "He's interning at a company owned by a friend of mine, so I let him experience the harsh realities of entering the workforce. Me? What's wrong?" Jiming Chen's voice softened. "Are you feeling sorry for him?" I didn't reply and took the coffee from his hand, sipping it before exclaiming in surprise, "Baby, why does this coffee taste sour?" Jiming Chen turned his face away. Suppressing my laughter, I sat on his lap, wrapped my arms around him, and kissed his cheek. "Thank you, Ming Chen. No, I don't feel sorry for him. I only care about you." Jiming Chen's dimples faintly reappeared, and I kissed them. "Baby, you're the cutest!" The cutest Jiming Chen held me in his arms and kissed me for a full 20 minutes, until I was out of breath. What I hadn't expected was that just as I had solved the white moonlight issue, Jiming Chen's cinnabar mole began to stir trouble. Lin Yao sought me out. We arranged to meet at a cafe, and I hurried over after work. The first thing she said as I sat down was, "Miss Wen, you're enjoying Ming Chen's maturity and gentleness, but have you ever thought that all the gentleness he shows you is something I taught him?" I picked up my coffee, but hadn't even had a sip before I burst into laughter. Lin Yao's face darkened. "What are you laughing at?" "Miss Lin, before I met you, others described you as both insecure and arrogant." I took a sip of coffee. I used to wonder how such contradictory terms could apply to one person. After meeting you today, I finally understand. Indeed, how could I ever compare to someone like you, who was naturally born into wealth and status? Lin Yao sneered. If I had your background, would it even be your turn? Did Ji-Ming Chen not face everything with you? He fought against his once harmonious family for your sake, made countless efforts for you. And in return, what did you give him? I calmly answered for her. You stole the fruits of his hard work, betrayed his loyalty and love, and left him with nothing but blatant betrayal. Are you incompetent, Lin Yao? You were the top student in the city's college entrance exams, earned scholarships for both your undergraduate and graduate studies in Germany. If we set aside all external factors, I even admire you greatly. I never comment on other people's relationships because love is hard to judge from the outside. I put down my coffee. But today, Lin Yao, your words really made me feel that Ji-Ming Chen didn't deserve this. Ji-Ming Chen's maturity and gentleness weren't taught by you. They are part of his nature. He was born gentle. I continued, he has a stronger sense of empathy than most people. His family's good upbringing pruned his rough edges, and life's hardships made him reflect on himself. The man he is today owes thanks to no one but himself for never giving up during his lowest moments. Lin Yao's face turned pale, and she stayed silent. In this relationship, the one who suffered the most was always him. Deep down, you should be well aware of that. I picked up my bag and stood up. Goodbye. As I walked out of the cafe, I felt an inexplicable mix of emotions. My phone vibrated. A message from Ji-Ming Chen, pinned at the top, popped up with a cute cat emoji wagging its tail, asking why I hadn't come to pick him up from work yet. I smiled. Today, I got off work early and had promised to pick him up. I replied to his message and stopped by the florist next door to order a bouquet of white roses. I could already picture the delighted expression on that big cat's face when he saw the roses, even before I had given them to him. When I was holding the large bouquet of white roses and stepped into the elevator, it was right during rush hour. As I walked into the lobby on the first floor, all the eyes of the people leaving work were on me. I was startled by the unusual attention and silently reflected for a moment. Apart from the striking bouquet of white roses, there wasn't anything particularly special about me. Occasionally, I made eye contact with some employees and even received friendly smiles from them. This mystery was finally solved when I arrived at Ji-Ming Chen's office floor. The official website made an announcement. Ji-Ming Chen's secretary smiled at me. On the day of the engagement, the company even gave everyone red envelopes. I asked her, "How much did you get?" The young lady gestured with her hand. "Thanks to you." I laughed. "When we get married, I'll give you another one. This time, personally from me." "Thank you in advance, then," she responded graciously, bringing me a cup of coffee. There was an unexpected issue at the branch. Otherwise, we'd all be off work by now. I'm sorry to trouble you, but please wait a little longer. I waited for half an hour before Ji-Ming Chen finally appeared. He looked visibly tired, and when he saw me, he seemed even more apologetic. "Sorry for making you wait so long." "That's how work is, isn't it?" I sat on the couch and opened my arms to him. "Come here, give me a hug." Ji-Ming Chen relaxed completely, leaning his entire body against me, even burying his head into the crook of my neck. With some effort, I lifted the bouquet of white roses from the side of the couch with one hand and said with a smile, "Here, flowers for you. Cheer up, baby." No exaggeration. Ji-Ming Chen's eyes lit up instantly. His eyelashes were thick and long, fluttering lightly as he smiled at me with dimples, saying how much he liked them. Oh my gosh. Dating Ji-Ming Chen is like experiencing the charm of both a mature man and a sweet puppy all at once. Just like that, I easily won Ji-Ming Chen over with a simple bouquet of flowers. He was usually very calm, but during dinner, I could sense a subtle restlessness, which peaked when I mentioned that Lin Yao had come to see me. I truthfully recounted our conversation, and after a long silence, Ji-Ming Chen said, Tuan, I'm not that good." Looking into his eyes, I replied, "Ji-Ming Chen is exactly that good." That night, on the way back, Ji-Ming Chen drove faster than usual for the first time. As we approached the apartment, I asked him to stop at a nearby convenience store. Ji-Ming Chen gripped the steering wheel nervously, as if realizing something. I smiled and asked, "Are you sure you don't want to buy it?" In the dim light inside the car, I noticed his ears turning red in an instant. He pressed his fist against his mouth, turning his head slightly, and whispered, "I've been preparing since we got engaged." Faced with my smiling gaze, Jiming Chen lowered his eyes and said, "What I prepared. It's a bit better in every aspect." I held back a laugh and nodded. Of course, it was carefully selected by President Xi, after all. We held hands as we went upstairs, and Jiming Chen's palm was warm, just like mine. Fingerprint unlock, door open, door close. In the next second, I was pressed against the wall, and Jiming Chen's overwhelming kisses poured down on me. Passionate, tender, embracing, full of love. Every way that Jiming Chen loved me was expressed in those kisses. We stumbled toward the bedroom, like two love-struck teenagers spinning through the world. But a small accident still happened. Jiming Chen revealed a clumsiness that didn't match his age. Jiming Chen, it turned out, was actually a virgin. I couldn't help but laugh quietly. Jiming Chen, both embarrassed and angry, bit my lower lip, looking up at me from below with a hint of grievance, saying, "Teach me." I personally guided him. And for the first time, I understood what it truly meant when they say, "Teaching the apprentice starves the master." The next day, Zhang Jia invited me for tea and casually asked how my night had gone. Her sharp eyes missed nothing, and I had no intention of hiding anything from her. Of course, there was no need to keep secrets from her anyway. I thought for a moment and said, "He was wilder than any man I've ever been with." Zhang Jia clicked her tongue. "You two really are a match in terms of stamina." I laughed and accepted the compliment. Normally, after an engagement, the wedding would follow soon, but I had entered a new phase in my career, and the company sent me to the North American headquarters for a year of training. It was a rare opportunity, and most importantly, after the training, my career would advance even further. I had long been prepared for the position in the China division. In this regard, two mature people would not have any disagreements. Without even discussing it, both Jiming Chen and I tacitly agreed to postpone the wedding date. Time passed like this, between our kisses and embraces. As the year-end approached, Jiming Chen's company held its annual meeting, and President Xi personally wrote an invitation letter inviting me to attend. The core department had a close relationship with Jiming Chen, and almost everyone knew me. As soon as I made an appearance, I was greeted with an unusually warm welcome. After all, I was quite generous. Jiming Chen's secretary told me that within their internal group chats, they jokingly referred to me as the Shanchai Tongzi. At the end of the event, Jiming Chen took the stage amid applause to give a speech. He spoke about the achievements of the past year and new prospects for the future. Jiming Chen rarely used empty platitudes. His pace was steady, his voice gentle, making his words sincere and inspiring. After finishing the business talk, Jiming Chen, still surrounded by applause, shifted his tone. "In the past year, I got engaged to the one I love, marking a new chapter in my life." I was momentarily stunned, and the audience below began to stir. At every major turning point in my life, I have always been grateful to myself, grateful for my persistence and for never giving up. Jiming Chen smiled and continued, "But from now on, I will only thank the most important person who has entered my life, Wen Dong, Miss Wen, the chief master of Yunshang." The crowd roared, and everyone's gaze turned toward me. My world was once covered in ice, barren and desolate. Jiming Chen looked at me with deep focus. But with your arrival, the glaciers melted and flowers bloomed. All the noise around me faded away, and all I could see were Jiming Chen's gentle eyes. He smiled as he called my name, paused for a moment, and then in a low voice said, "Ich liebe dich, I love you."